Hi guys, and welcome back to the basement of the apocalypse. I hope all is well. I hope you're all healthy and doing well. At this point you should have done reading 12 Angry Men. You had a week to do it. It's a quick read. Great play. Pretty much everybody goes through high school, reads it at some point. It's magnificently written. Vocabulary is not difficult at all. So a little bit later on, maybe we'll get together and talk about it. But for now, I wanted to talk to you about your summative assignment based on 12 Angry Men. You're going to do journal entries from the point of view of the accused waiting on his verdict from 12 Angry Men. For the journal entries, you're going to make parallels between, obviously, the story in 12 Angry Men, and you're going to also use your experience through reading Shawshank Redemption to make these journal entries together. So what I'd like to do right now is just take a little bit of time and go through the documents with you and hope everything's clear. Again, you guys can email me whenever you'd like. You guys can send me any kinds of questions, either on Classroom or by email. I will always answer them. I check them every day. Those of you who submitted your questions on 12 Angry Men, I submitted the answers to you by email if you wanted to compare your answers to mine. Those of you who aren't quite done and you can still send me your questions and I'll give you the answer sheet, no problem. Alright, so let's go. So here we have your main sheet of what I'd like you guys to do with this. I'm just waiting for this to load. Alright, so thoughts from prison, summative evaluation, 12 Angry Men. The boy has been found not guilty by a group of 12 jurors and is being set free. While awaiting trial and during the proceedings, he was kept in prison hoping to be acquitted of his crime. Now, we have to take a little bit of liberties. Spoiler, if you haven't read it, you should have, so I just told you how it ends. That still doesn't mean that you have enough information not to read it. Okay, so you're going to write 3 journal entries from the boy's perspective and include details from the play to show your understanding of this. You must also inspire yourself from the novel Shawshank Redemption that we read. Okay, so your 3 journal entries. The first one has to consider what happens to the boy after being arrested. So what's going through his head? How does he feel about his father's death? How was his first day in prison, etc., etc. By journal entry, I mean kind of writing a letter to nobody in particular. We'll get to that after. I'll give you an example of format. Your second one, this entry must consider his time spent in prison while the trial is happening. What are his days like? What does he think about? How does he keep busy? How does he feel about the trial, etc.? Now, here's where we have to take a little artistic liberty. In the play, it takes place in 1 day, so he only has to wait 1 day to get the answer. But if this were in 2020, he would be in jail many days, weeks, months, years even. So we'll just assume that it was more than a day and that he had to be in jail for a substantial amount of time. Right? Number 3, your third entry, what happens while the boy is waiting for the jury to come back? Right? So what does he feel about the jury? Right? How does he feel about the outcome? What would he like to do once he's released? Now don't forget, he doesn't have access. He didn't hear to what you heard when you were listening about the trial, right? But he does have the same information they have. He has the reaction, etc. You can take, I would expect you to take liberties in the sense of, at the trial, this gentleman looked like he was very aggressive and wanted to see me burn no matter what. This other person looked to be very thoughtful and intelligent and maybe my risks on this and then and that. So that's up to you. A lot of creative licenses here. During all of this, I want you to show understanding of both 12 Angry Men and Shawshank that we read. So here, just a little bit of entry. Give me the date, the location of where the entry is being written. Is he reading from his house, the park, his grandma's place, prison? You know, you can add a greeting if you want, up to you. Write in paragraph format, start a new paragraph with new ideas, and with a concluding thought to wrap each entry. You know, a hope, a wish, an overall feeling, whatever. Okay? So, specific details from each source of information, play, novella, etc. Your interpretation of the boy's thought and feelings based on the facts from the play, right? So I want you to show parallels. I want you to show to me that you read the play and that you understood it. You can invent details that make sense, but are otherwise an unknown. You know, you have to make good leaps and they have to be logical. You know, if you say that, well, while in prison I had a Super Smash Nintendo tournament, well, that's not very believable, right? Good journal structure, first-person perspective from the boys, logical transition in your journal entry dates. You know, the different dates have to make sense. And it's just about 300 words for the entry. And 300 words does not include the date and the greeting. And 300 words is the meat of it. That's not that much per entry, you know, at all. Okay? You can brainstorm your ideas. You can give me a quick outline. Give me a draft. You can correct your first draft, final revisions, and create a final copy. Now, all of this, I want you to read this one. You may indicate that your draft is your first version in the history docs, or have two separate Google Docs, up to you. What I mean by that is you can tell me, okay, I want you to read the first version, and then I want that will be my draft, and then my final version, which you have now, is the final idea. Just to give you an idea, if I go in Fichier and I go Historique des versions, maybe you have history versions. Go voir version history. You know, I can see how this was on April 6th. You know, and I can see the changes made today. Right, on April 14th, right? So what I can do is I can say, okay, well, you can tell me this version would be my draft, and then I made all kinds of changes, and then the final version you have is my final draft. That's fine. Or you can make a draft, save that, give me that, and then give me the final one. You know, this is for each journal, right? It should take an hour and a half per journal entry, so you guys are going to get 2 weeks to do this, okay? Because you have 3 hours a week. That's more than enough time, if you've read it already, to make a journal. Think about it. That's maybe 2 journals this week, and then 1 journal next week, kind of thing. All right, where were we? Okay, so it says the due date here is Tuesday, April 28th, and 28th of April, I guess I should put there. And yes, that is the correct date. I'm still in history, so I'll go back. Oh, geez. It's reloading. God bless the internet. So, that's pretty much it. So you also have here, there's the link to the movie. If you guys want to watch it, we would have watched it in class, but it gives you a good outline of the thing. It's not word for word the play, but it's just a magnificent take on the play, right? Here's your grid, right? Look through it. If you have any questions about how it's going to be evaluated, you know, just standard stuff. Show my understanding of 12 Angry Men. I include details from Shawshank Redemption to show my understanding of prison life. I have details that would make sense about the play. The date entries are logical. These are all things that are in the main doc. So go ahead and look at that. I've also added, it's not so much an example of what I'm looking for as if more than an example of structure. Hi, Sensei, how you doing, buddy? So I'll just wait for this to load here. Okay. So you know the guy's name, John Smith to Monsieur Alexandre. I've added somebody he's writing to. You don't have to. Oh, sorry, no, this is you. This is you dating your thing. So journal entries. So maybe you'll decide that this play is, or this trial happened in the year 2000. That's fine. You can add these kinds of canons. That's what I did. You can say that in 2020, or you can say that in 1957, like when the play actually took place. All right. So name of prison, dear journal, and then you guys can read all this. It gives you an idea of structure, right? And begin with the relevant date. When a murder happens, it can take a year or more for a trial to begin. If the play takes place in summer of a certain date, plan your first entry accordingly, since it should be when the murder has just happened, right? So you can change the date there, is what I'm saying. So this is just kind of ideas, and that's roughly the size of it. It's like a page and a half is 300 words, or even less than that. It's just a page is about 300, maybe a little less. So it's not the end of the world. So that's it, right? Go through those documents. What I'll do is within the next few days, I'll post a time that I'll be on for a Google Meet. And you guys, if you have any questions about this, because I'm assuming you'll look over it today, you can come on and ask questions. You have 3 journal entries to make. So at the very least, by the end of the week, you have 1 done. And that'll just leave you, that'll give you like another week to do the other 2. Right? But you should at least have 1 before next week. Okay, thank you very much. We'll see each other soon.